What's up, GameLeapers? This is Coach Higgs. In today's video, mate, the 10 champions with the highest win rates in high-elo career. Now, all of these champions have had at least 100 games played, so the sample size is actually legit, and these champions boast higher win rates than some of the most OP champions you might think are in the game right now. And what I'm going to do as well, I'm going to give you the room pages, the best ones, the builds, and some hidden tech on these champs that's really important to know about if you're going to abuse them in your games. So make sure you stick around, guys, for the whole video. Any questions about this stuff, let us know in the comments section. And of course, if you want to 100% improve at this game and not be hard stuck for the rest of your life, GameLeap.com is the only website you need for it, because our challenger players and coaches upload daily content for you. We might break down high elo VODs, whether it's like Faker, Chovy, Ruler. We might even go through some low elo games and point out the big differences. We might publish champion courses and guides to help you master the micro of these champions, every single champ in the game, right? So to perfect the micro and macro of League of Legends, which will equal challenger, all you have to do is click on one of those links to our website down below and sign up to get exclusive access to that library of content. Now let's get into the top 10 champs based on win rate in high elo career. Coming in at number 10, bit of an interesting one, but to be honest, I think I can kind of make sense of it in my head. It's Master Yi. And I really think this is because Cenarius is out there in career right now playing Master Yi in his hotel room. This dude is an absolute beast of Master Yi, but generally speaking, he's not going to be the only Yi player right out there. The important thing here is that, I think anyway, how the game has changed where it's very engagey, especially in high elo career where pretty much every support at the moment is going to be engagey. You know, they're going to jump in, they're going to CC enemy champions. For Master Yi, that's awesome because there is less opportunity for the enemy champions to kite because they're locked down. I also think the changes to Master Yi whenever they were they like made your Q targetable, like you can choose the direction in which you come out of your Alpha Strike. I think it's super broken. And you can also see this room page here with Relentless Hunter and Eyeball Collection is proving to be the best, even though the sample size here is really small, but I think it is real. And it does make sense because movement speed on Yi is so important, especially like in the early stages of a game as well, and even late game, where you're like going through fog, trying to pick off people in the side lane. I think it's a super underrated rune page and rune and should be abused more. So Master Yi is number 10. Definitely want to pick him if you see a bunch of CC on your team. If you have something like a Katarina mid, one of those assassins, which is pretty popular in solo queue, probably not the best game to pick him in. Now, number 9 here is a champion I think you have to have in the bot lane, guys, at the moment, because he does very well against popular AD carries. So if you see an immobile AD carry like who's really good, like a Draven, right? This champion is going to destroy him and lots of other AD carries who are immobile. This is Ziggs. Now I know he's not a traditional AD carry and we do like kiting and all that stuff, but he's actually proving to be very good in high elo career. In close to 150 matches, he's got close to a 56% win rate when picked. If we think about an AP skill shotter like Ziggs as well, what would this guy appreciate? Engage and CC, which is exactly what is in the bot lane right now. Nautiluses, Threshers, Pikes, Rels. Ziggs loves these champions because of the synergy they give you, landing your bouncing bomb, landing multiple minefields in your E. It's great for him. And of course the ultimates, we don't have to talk too much about that. So Ziggs as a counter pick, I think you should be picking him into those mobile AD carries. Is very, very underrated. And also if your team needs a bit of AP as well. Now coming in at number 8 is another bot laner. This one is actually an AD carry who isn't really talked about at all at the moment. And the reason why is because if we compare this champion to something like a Draven or an Ashe, he's definitely weaker. But the stats here, that's all I'm going off. But Lucian, pretty much the same as Ziggs in over 100 matches, close to a 56% win rate. Now the new Lucian as well, remember when they changed him a few patches ago, your Vigilance passive is going to proc off CC, not when you get healed or shielded by a support, which is why Nami Lucian, even stuff like Milio Lucian, right, Lulu Lucian, was actually pretty good because of how his passive worked. It was just better to play him with Enchantresses. Now because the CC proc is back in your passive, it's just as good to play him with CC. And Lucian as well does very well against the engaged supports. Why? Because he's kind of like an Ezreal, because of your Relentless Pursuit, because of the dash you have there. It cucks a lot of champions, and especially if you run Cleanse, look at the stats for me, in just over 40 games, close to a 59% win rate. It makes you unkillable, bro. Yes, Ezreal might be stronger because of Trinity Force, but even still, Lucian with something like Kraken into Navori's and then cooldown boots, right? The cooldown you're getting from Navori and of course Lucidity boots, you will be eating all over the place, and in a close range engaged meta, having that up that often, it's super OP. Just be careful of blind picking Lucian. If you do, I'd highly recommend banning Draven. You will want to never play AD carry again because he is so broken. Now moving on to number 7 in the countdown, we're going to switch it up and go to the top lane here, guys, and a champion who, well, if you see her locked in on the enemy team and you are a melee top laner, you're probably going to want to quit. The reason being is because Cassiopeia as a top laner is just so good. Because of her range and her short range prowess, if you will. Like no one else can really like encapsulate her in their range unless you're playing like an actual range top laner. but that's kind of rare, right? Most of the time you're playing melee champions. This champion really pops off, especially with Rod of Ages and then Saracen Brace, of course, for allies. It almost gives you like a free scaling lane, if you will. I also think because of the nerfs to champions like Jax, Aatrox got nerfed a little bit here, there aren't really many like threats in the top lane and standout top laners who you're going to be scared of. A champion like Aurelia might be a little bit scary, right? Because of her gap closing potential, those type of champions. Maybe even something like a Riven is a little bit scary because she can dodge your stuff with her dashes and get onto you quite quickly. So you have to be a lot more aware of getting ganked, and good ward timing and placement is important. But for the most part, man, just these stats, it really back this up, right? That Cassio is very strong as a top laner, but you really have to know how to play her. And again, our website will teach you how to do just that. So in over 160 matches, over a 56% win rate, S-tier champion here. Now, if we move on into the mid lane, we're going now. And yes, you can play Cassio in the mid lane, but this champion is even better according to the stats. And the first S+ tier champion here on the countdown, we have Qiyana. Why is Qiyana here? Well, Qiyana got buffed not so long ago, right? In terms of her actual like damage, which is important, but she also got buffed because of Dustplate. And now, last patch from Prowler's Claw. This giving you 18 lethality, which is really nice for her, right? And the passive, where you slow the enemy champion when you auto-attack them. This is huge for this champion. Also, the untarget ability you get, the invulnerability, whatever you want to call it, whatever floats your boat. This has been super broken as well. Also here, it's kind of interesting that in the mid lane, people running Conqueror Qiyana with Presence of Mind, and then also running Resolve secondary tree. So you're running Overgrowth for a bit of, well, just scaling, I guess, for HP, makes you tankier, right, and harder to kill, and Second Wind or Bone Plating, I guess, depending on the matchup. So Second Wind into poke mid laners, range mid laners, Bone Plating maybe into stuff like a Zed or maybe something like a Fizz, right? But Conqueror does seem legit now, because as Qiyana, most of the time you're going to be like trading with the enemy champion at level 3 when you're getting 2 Ws off. So if you're like, you know, maybe queuing in, then you get a W, reset your Q, go in again, you can E and auto attack, right? You're stacking Conqueror very quickly as this champion, so maybe it's the way to go. Bit more testing perhaps here, lots of people might be going like Electrocute or something like this, but this does seem good as well. But yeah, Qiyana, guys, in close to 300 matches, over a 56%er, this champion is really strong because of the reasons I mentioned, the buffs, and also Dustblade getting buffed, her big item. Now, moving back down to the bot lane, we mentioned this champion when I talked about Lucian. So if you're playing Lucian, guys, you have to ban Draven, man. This champion is still incredibly broken. With Trinity Force, whether you're going, you know, Trinity Force into Collector, well, that is really the build. Or if you're going something like, you know, Collector into Infinity Edge, either or, to be honest, maybe go Collector into Infinity Edge if you're really snowballing. Trinity Force is just going to be the better all-around build here. But yeah, I don't think I have to talk too much about this. Draven with lethal tempo, and then secondary tree as well. Lots of people might want to go treasure hunter to cash in the stacks, more gold, etc. But to be honest, you're not really seeing like the rest of the enemy team, guys, until like 20-25 minutes. But to be honest, man, like I think footwear makes more sense, and even biscuits here, it's good for like all-ins and stuff, especially for your mana, because if you're using your blood rush a lot every time you catch an axe, well, it just allows you to be more aggressive, and saving 300 gold allows you to get to Trinity Force or Collector or Infinity Edge quicker, right? So I think that's kind of like an underrated setup. And we also see, as far as summoner spells go, when Dravens run Barrier, they win 88% of games, which is kind of weird. I know it's only 25 matches, but might be something to consider as well in the bot lane, instead of running something like maybe Cleanse or Heal, but both of those have their games too. But yeah, Draven number 5. Now moving into number 4, bit of a strange one here. I'm trying to like still figure this out in my head, but this is Zac. Now, I think Zac is here because he's actually a great engaged champion, but he also loves it when he gets engaged on in a way, right? Because he would hate to go against maybe enchantresses like a Lulu, Polymorph, right? Or the Wild Growth that stops you from getting your elastic slingshot off. Maybe something like a Janna, right, who is good, I understand that. But engage meta is actually great for Zac in that respect as well. Like when people engage onto you, you can just press your ultimate. You can peel your AD carry, but also that you can act as another layer of CC when your Nautilus goes in, something like this, right? Now, of course, there are strong junglers out there you have to be careful of, so in the early game, make sure you're warding your second buff and try to navigate yourself out of the early game, and you should be in a position to really pop off. In over 170 games in high elo Korea, where they will put the pressure on Zac players, this dude still has close to a 57% win rate, and he is classified as an S tier champion. Now, starting off the top 3, guys, and if you are enjoying this video where we give you a bit more input in terms of the setups here for these champions, please let us know by leaving a like down below. And yeah, number 3, this is Poppy, but in the top lane. Now, I've ranted about this champion recently about how broken she is, specifically as a top laner. I think she's really flying under the radar, and in high elo Korea, you can see how her ban rate is 12.3%. If I was to change this to across the world, in like Emerald Plus, it goes all the way down to like 4%, and across all ranks in the top lane, it's just over 2%. 2%. So Koreans at the highest level know how annoying this champion is to play against, man. But champions like Jax, Camille, any champion in the game with a dash, of course, if you're playing against a Rel, lots of junglers, right, who have dashes like Wukongs, there are Silases out there maybe in the mid lane, so many champions poppy cucks, and because the extra damage you now deal based off HP, which is what they gave her a few patches ago, right, in the top lane, there is a lot of beefiness. She crushes so many champions. So if you don't have her in your champion pool, I think it's really troll. It is a must-have at the moment because she's so good. And she's not the most popular champion as well, especially if you're playing in lower elos. Now, moving on to number 2, guys. This really surprised me because, to be honest, this champion doesn't really have an early game. You have to know how to really play the early laning phase in order to make use of this champ, because in the late game, we all know how good Aurelion Sol still is. But what I'm going to kind of like teach you here, hopefully, is how to get out of the early laning phase. So what you want to do here with your rune setup is go exactly what it is here with footwear. Just like I mentioned for Draven, you're saving 300 gold, and for scaling champions, this is really important. It gets you to your early spikes quicker because you're not spending that gold on boots, right? Which you don't necessarily need. As long as you're using your W properly and saving it, you should be good. The other point I want to make here is that your build, if you look here, it goes Rylai's, Crown of the Shattered Queen, and then Sorcerer's Shoes. The important thing here, though, is that you are getting a Lost Chapter first, 1100 gold. Then you are getting Rylai's, and then finishing off Crown. This setup is actually really broken, and for a Sol in high elo career, look at this for me in close to 200 matches, over a 60% win rate. He's S+ tier. This really surprised me. I also think the engage meta is actually good for him because, again, you're very skill shotty, and landing more of your skill shots, well, it's almost like dependent on your teammate's CC in those mid to late game team fights, which is really when you come into your own. So the Celestial Dragon is number 2 here. And if there are any ASOL mains out there, let us know if you actually tried this setup with Rylai's Rush after your Lost Chapter. Now, number 1 champion, guys, according to win rate. Now, this champion is banned in close to 50% of games, and I reckon you guys know who it is. Now, you can play her as a support, and I've even mentioned her in this video because she has amazing CC, probably the best CC in the game. But the actual best win rate champion, well, it is Rel, but not playing her as a support, playing her in the jungle. Because her level 3, once you get to this, a bit like a Zac, it's like Zac on steroids. It's like any jungler on steroids, to be honest. You can just run into the enemy jungler, maybe priority, doesn't even matter. You just chain CC them, so they tank the camp they're doing. Or you just go and gank a lane at level 3, and guess what? Especially in low elos, those lanes are probably going to be more gankable. So in over 100 matches, Rel jungle has over a 66% win rate. Of course, we're starting with our Q, right, and then our W, and then our E, maxing Q into E. But those are the stats, guys, and they're not lying to us. Rel jungle is the highest win rate that we know of right now. Of course, the new patch 13.15 is just around the corner, so maybe this will change, but to be honest, Rel isn't getting hit, so she'll probably even be number 1 for that one as well. Guys, thank you so much for watching the video. If you did enjoy it, again, please remember to leave a like down below, and I will see you in our next Season 13 upload. This has been Coach Cheeks. Peace.